The 1970s saw the birth of numerous items that were a big part of our lives for many years to come. Some of these things paved the way for future items that would later come out on the market, while others were pretty unique in their own time. In this video, we will take a trip down memory lane and remember some of the 1970s things that don't exist anymore. The National Lampoon magazine launched in 1970, and when it did, the publication sold less than half of the 5,000 copies that were printed. As the decade went on, it increased in popularity, and it had a huge effect on American humor and comedy. Eventually, the brand would go on to produce some memorable films like Animal House, Caddyshack, and the Vacation series, just to name a few. By the late 1980s, the magazine started to decline in sales, and by 1998, they ceased production on it. Buckwheat Cereal was produced by General Mills in 1971. The cereal consisted of toasted wheat flakes with a sweet maple-flavored glaze baked into them. At the time, people loved this cereal, but after several years in production, General Mills changed the recipe and started using honey-flavored glaze in the place of the maple one. This change was not very popular with consumers, and the sales fell. The Buckwheat cereal was discontinued in 1983. Toaster Eggs was a product by Downy Flakes, and it hit the store shelves in 1972. This was a time period when there were a lot of different breakfast items that were popping up out of the toaster. Downy Flakes had hoped to appeal to children who loved Pop-Tarts. However, this concept of an egg cooking in a toaster was completely toast by 1975. Playgirl was an American magazine that had historically featured photos of nude and semi-nude men. The first issue came out in 1973, and it was marketed towards women. Of course, we all know those women were buying the magazine just for the articles. But the magazine also developed a huge following with gay male readers. From 1973 to 2009, the magazines were released monthly, followed by quarterly editions beginning in 2010. The magazine ceased printing operations in December of 2016. In November of 2020, it was relaunched as an online publication. Gerber has been the #1 producer of baby food for almost a century now. But 50 years ago, in 1974, Gerber decided to venture out into the world of the adult food market. When Gerber Singles came out, it was marketed towards college students and young adults that were living on their own for the first time. Their tagline was, "We were good for you then, we're good for you now." Gerber firmly believed that there was a market for these single-serve, ready-to-eat foods for adults. However, adults did not see it that way. They did not like the mushy meat and other flavors, so the product was quickly pulled from store shelves. In 1975, Sony came out with the Betamax cassette tape. This new system allowed consumers to have the power to record and watch things like they had never done before. It seemed to be doing fine until the VHS tape was released in 1976. Yes, you heard that right, 1 year later. VHS tapes and players were slightly cheaper, but there was another advantage that they had. The recording time for a Betamax tape was 1 hour versus the VHS tape, which was 3 hours. This ultimately led to the VHS tape winning over consumers and dominating the market. However, media companies continued to use Betamax for many years. The Betamax blank tapes continued to be produced until 2016. The gaming company Coleco hit it big in 1976 when it released the Tailstar gaming console. This offered families a cheap way to get in on the gaming action with the Pong craze. Over the next several years, the company released 9 different versions of these dedicated consoles. However, Coleco was forced to get rid of more than 1 million Tailstar gaming consoles as consumers moved on to cartridge-based systems. There's no doubt that Milton Bradley has had some of the best and biggest board games that have ever been on the market. But did you ever play the game Town Dump? The box would unfold into a large town dump with plastic pieces of garbage in the middle. Players would then take turns revving up the motorized bulldozer and sending it into the town dump from their side of the board. The object of the game was to push as much trash as you can out of the dump and onto your opponent's side. As exciting as it may sound, it just didn't remain popular, and it has likely landed into the town dump itself. Anyone in the 1970s can certainly remember Farah Faucet being all over the place. She was in magazines and on television as well as posters. Her hair was something that many women dreamed of having, which is why she became the face and name of the Farah Faucet shampoo. Soon, it made its way into many magazines and television commercials. Young girls and women were buying her shampoo with the hopes of having her amazing hair. If this shampoo worked for you, let us know in the comments. It's no longer on the market for sale, so either the styles changed or it didn't work. Long before we had CDs, MP3s, and music streaming services, we had something else that ruled the world. In 1979, Sony released the Walkman, and in the 1980s, it took the world by storm. This little cassette player paved the way for portable personal music. For the first time ever, it made wearing headphones in public cool. Soon kids, joggers, and walkers were all sporting this little gem as they were out and about. Throughout the 80s, there were several different models released, including a waterproof one. There were more than 200 million Sony Walkmans sold before Sony retired the classic cassette tape Walkman line in 2010. That's a pretty amazing achievement considering that there were numerous imitations that were also out on the market after the Walkman. Many of these items were iconic, and even if you didn't have them, then you certainly knew what they were. They may not exist anymore, but they will certainly live on in our memories. Did you ever have any of these items? Or perhaps you would like to share some of the memories of other 70s items that are no longer around. Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. Stay tuned because there will be more on the way, and if you'd like to see more, please check out the playlist. There you can find nostalgic videos on different decades as well as different topics. As always, thank you so much for watching.